This year I am determined to stop making the same mistakes over and over again. So I am bringing something back that I have not done in a long time to my detriment. And that is a monthly review. So a way that I can nicely tie up, wrap up each month and then build on my success the following month so that I'm not just reliving the same month, like Groundhog Month. So I'm going to show you my process. I'm hoping that you will follow along too. And I will also show you some sneak peeks of my digital journal. So let's go. Hi guys, it's Laura, and Aurora here is continuing her coup off my desk, and I wouldn't have it any other way. I love her, but I wanted to share my monthly review with you because this year's phrase, I guess, if you will, for me is going to be a problem solver, because I feel like I just stumble from one mistake to the next. You know, I make a mistake, I kind of learned the lesson from it, but then I'm just on to the next mistake and I never actually implement what I'm learning, and then over time I just forget and fall back into bad habits, and I do not want that happening this year. I really want to make progress and actually evolve. I just want to break out of that cycle. So I'm sitting down today to do my first monthly review in a long time, and I want to share with you what I'm doing, the thoughts that I'm having, why I'm doing certain things, why these things are important, and some things that you can give consideration to as well. First step, folks, get yourself comfortable. I have a heated blanket on my lap here. I have 4 pairs of socks on today and my feet are still freezing. So I switched on the heated blanket. But section 1 or question 1 is what went well this month. So I keep kind of a journal, I guess you'd call it. I mean, it's not really a like Dear Diary, deep and meaningful type of journal. It's just a record of my daily life. And I jot down things that happened. I insert some little pictures. It's just a little memory keeper for me. But I previously found that when I was trying to do this, I would read back over journal entries from the past month and pick out all of those, you know, big and small achievements. But it was time consuming. So now what I have started doing is including a section at the end of each day called highlights, where I write down what the highlights were from that day. So the little wins that I had, the big wins that I had, funny things that happened, just all those types of things that made me smile. So now, instead of having to reread entire entries, I can just go back over all of my little highlights sections. I do have another section that I started doing this year as well that I've also found really helpful. I'm going to come back to that in a minute. So I'm going to sit down now. I'm going to look through all of my highlight sections for January and note down all the things that went well. It's really important to take time to celebrate your successes, particularly if you're like me and you just kind of let the day run away with you and every day runs into the next one, and you know, at the end of a month, at the end of a year, you feel like you haven't actually achieved anything. So it's important to take the time to stop and say, no, I am making progress. I am getting things done. For me, it's also for a very personal reason. It's because I generally need a lot of kind of motivation. I need a lot of reassurance. I need support. I need to know that I am making progress. So seeing this big long list helps me, because if I don't feel like I'm making progress, if I don't feel like anything is really happening, I can very quickly get demotivated and feel defeated and then stop doing things. And it doesn't have to be very specific things. You don't have to list, you know, specific events or anything that happened, but it could be just general things too. So for example, something that I had on my list was having fun with our puppy, and that was, you know, something that happened at various different times over the month, but it was just kind of a general feeling of fun. Okay, there are over 30 things on my list of what went well, and it's so lovely to see them. Something that I did notice is that while a lot of them are kind of achievement based, like, you know, starting to learn how to play the harp, which I'm really excited about, and putting up 2 videos a week this month, that has been great. But some of them, or a lot of them even, are more kind of moments. They're experiences. So one of the things I wrote down was belly laughs. I've had more belly laughs this month than probably all of last year put together. And a lot of that is down to the puppy. She's just so fun. A lot of actually puppy based stuff. I did not want a dog. And now that I have her, completely smitten. Listening to Scout playing on the harp. Scout has picked it up just from watching me play. Lots of little moments like that rather than just kind of things or achievements. And that's been really interesting to see, and something that I definitely want to focus more on next month now, moving forward, focusing on those moments, on really capturing those moments, not forcing them, but really taking a moment to appreciate the moment. Now then, I'm going to move on to the next section, which is things that did not go so well. I'm not going to spend too long on this because this is not an exercise in beating yourself up over not getting everything done. It's simply to write down things that did not go so well so that you can kind of spot quick fixes, things that you could immediately change and improve, but also so that over time you can start to notice patterns. So if I write something down this month that did not go well, generally I kind of ignore it. It's just there for reference. But if after several months I notice that the same thing is cropping up over and over again, then that is my cue that I need to do something about this, because it is just dragging on for too long and is having a negative impact on my life. But this section is, like I said, it's not for getting down on yourself. It's not for making yourself feel bad. It's just so that over time you can start to notice patterns. This is thankfully usually a much shorter list. This time around I had 9 things on it. But the big thing that I noticed was that I didn't have a set schedule or routine this month. When you come out of Christmas, New Year's and whatever, and you're just feeling a bit kind of all over the place, the kids aren't in school, so the structure or routine to your day is missing. So that is something that had a huge impact in my life this month. But not only that, by writing down the list, I was able to see how much it actually impacted other things in my life. For example, the amount of work I got done. Not as much, because I didn't have that routine of sitting down at my desk and getting to work. It also impacted my sleep. I didn't have a consistent sleep schedule. That made me feel more tired, which obviously meant I wasn't getting as much work done. But then that also led to mindless snacking, which had an impact on my health. So by listing all of these things, I was able to spot how fixing just one of them would have a huge ripple effect on most, if not all, of the others. Really interesting insights from that one. But the next section then is a new section for me. So this is one that I have just decided to add, and that is going to be lessons learned. Because it's all well and good, writing down the great things that happened and the not so great things that happened, but if you're not examining why those things happened or how those things happened, you're really not learning anything. So earlier I talked about, my highlight section, where every day I was jotting down the highlights, the standouts from that day. And I talked about another section that I also added, and that is my reflection section. So at the end of every day, and I found this so helpful, at the end of every day I sit down and I think about the lessons that I learned from that day. What stood out to me, what was kind of like an aha moment, whether it be a positive thing or a negative thing. So sometimes I realized positive things, like if you do this, this, it turns out great, do more of this. And then other times, obviously, it was like, stop doing this thing. I can already tell that there are some that kind of repeated throughout the month. So I'm really interested now in going back and rereading those, and again, noticing those patterns, noticing the things that kept cropping up. I think this is going to be really helpful to build on my success, like I said, and kind of evolve as a person, so that each month I am learning from the mistakes and I'm coming back each month stronger, more knowledgeable. That is at least the theory. Let's see how this goes. Now, I will say that most of these lessons I already knew, but there are 4 kind of new ones that I wanted to point out. The first is that if I'm not learning something, if I am not challenging myself, I get bored very easily. So even if I'm doing something and I haven't quite mastered it, I haven't quite finished it, I need to move on to something else, because I will just get fed up and will just stop doing it completely. So that's a new lesson that I learned. The next then is that I need to write down my ideas as soon as I have them. I'm generally pretty good at this, but sometimes I kind of wait because an idea hasn't fully formed or I want to give it some extra thought. But the danger there is that I will then get distracted with something else and completely forget about it. So I need to write down ideas, even if I don't have a lot of clarity around them, even if I don't really know where I'm going with the idea, I need to write it down. Another really interesting lesson that I learned is that I should leave kind of longer tasks or tasks that I have been procrastinating on until the end of the day, because what happens is if I tackle them first thing in the morning and I get them all done, my brain completely switches off. It thinks, well, that was a big task, time to switch off for the day, and I get nothing else done. So from now on, what I'm going to have to do is get other things done first and then leave those longer tasks, if I can complete them in one go, of course, leave those until the end of the day when I can actually switch off and then just go and relax. And finally then, another lesson that I learned is that when I'm considering a purchase, I should ask myself if something else will achieve the same thing, if I will get the same result from something else. This actually stopped me from making a completely useless impulse purchase this month, because I stopped and I asked myself, is there some other way I could achieve the same goal that I want from this thing that I'm considering purchasing? And the answer was yes, there was another way for me to do it with things that I already had on hand. So I was able to put that thing back, not clutter up my home, not drain my bank balance. And that was a really interesting insight I felt this month, something that hopefully is going to save me a lot of money in future. Oh, I just pulled a nail back. Oh, hate that. Anyway, I'm going to lump the next two in together because they're pretty similar, or one kind of leads on from the other. But the next thing that I focus on is the things that I want to achieve next month. So I just write down a list of random things, keeping everything that I've learned from the monthly review so far in mind, and also kind of my big picture goals, but then as well any kind of one-off events. So maybe there's something particular that I want to get done that month, doesn't really tie into like a big life goal that I have, but it's just something that I want to get done that month. So I will basically just brainstorm, go back through all the things that went well, trying to, keep those in mind, things that didn't go so well. So maybe there's something there that I want to focus on. This new section now with the lessons learned, I think that's really going to be helpful for me when it comes to actually getting the stuff done, but also kind of crafting better goals. And I'm going to talk about that in a second. But yeah, it's just listing down some things that I would like to achieve in the next month or so. And then what I do, so the kind of the following section, or the part B, is to narrow my focus. So the list that I write is kind of a, I don't know, aspirational list maybe. What I do then after that is I focus on what my priorities are. So what are the things that I really want to focus on? What are the things that I want to get done first? What are the things that, if I didn't get anything else on the list done, what are the things that would really make me feel the most successful? Those will be my focus. Everything else on the list will be a bonus. I want to talk here about lead versus lag goals. Lag goals are the things that come at the end. They're the outcome, the result, what you're aiming for, your destination. Those are great, but they don't give you a clear map for how to get there. And that is where lead goals come in. So these are the things that actually will help you get to your destination. So what I did was I wrote down some goals that I wanted, but I also wrote down how I was going to achieve them. So things like, let's say that you want to read a certain number of books, or you want to learn something new. That's the lag goal. That's the thing that you want at the end of all this. But how are you going to get it? So for me, a lot of it was scheduling time in every day, or putting aside, a half day a week or a full day a week to actually get the job done. Having goals is all well and good, but you also need to know how you are going to get yourself from A to B, how you are going to turn that goal, that dream that you have for yourself, that number that you want to reach, whatever it may be, how you're going to turn that into a reality. Then I will have a section for notes, and this is for general thoughts, ideas, general musings, or anything that just did not fit into one of the previous categories. Sometimes it will be something that I'm extra grateful for. Sometimes it will be something unusual that happened that month. You know, like currently we're in the middle of a global pandemic. It's essentially just ways that I can give a little bit of context to what came before, and it just helps to round out my monthly review so that when I am looking back, I can get a better idea of what else was going on at the time. What were some standouts or highlight moments for you from this past month, and what is a really good lesson that you learned recently? I have found this really interesting. I'm going to spend some time now going back over it and just kind of reflecting on it, but I think it's been really great to help me declutter all of the stuff that is just not working for me. Just get rid of all of that out of my life. Really spend time noticing that, because if you're not noticing it, then you can't do anything about it. And then also helping me focus on the things that actually are moving me forward and are adding value to my life, the things that I'm getting benefit from. So that has been really, really interesting. Let me know if you do it, what you think, what kind of aha moments it brought up for you. But yes, I'm going to sit down now, reflect on this, get my life sorted, and move on to the next month stronger and better than ever. Slán!